Alright, this is my latest project. It's Dick Korda's Dethermalizer. It's a pretty big old-timer rubber here. It's 52 inches, 50 inches projected wingspan, which gives you about 300 square inches, so it's a pretty big wing, and I thought this would be good for rubber power radio control, because again, the equipment weighs about an ounce. It's also got plenty of room in the cabin here for the equipment. Now, I've been working on this since last November. It's August, so it's been about 10 months. And I'm only going to show you here what I did that's different from the Lanzo. So most of the construction's the same as the Lanzo, but I did do some things differently. So here's the stab and the rudder, and as you can see, I put a tab on the rudder because I'm going to make this radio control. Now, one thing I did here is these tail skids really take a beating. So on the bottom of the balsa, I took a 32nd by 1/8 basswood strip and I wrapped that around there so to make the skid a little bit stronger. You can't see it, it's under the tissue. I used polyspan for the whole thing, which is really nice. It's nice and strong. Okay, you can I put a little switch here, mount. That's for the radio. Here's the windshield, which I glued on. Now what I did on the windshield is I actually covered over it first. And that way when I sprayed the polyspan, then what I could do was cut out for the windshield, and I think it looks a little nicer this way. You have a little bit of covering on the spars there. Here's the nose. I'm still working on the prop. I'll show you that. The equipment, now what I did is I made two little compartments on the top here. So you can't see it, but the receiver's back in here basically. The battery's in here. Okay, here's the servo. Another Featherlight servo. I put a switch and I made a little hole, so here's the antenna will come out, and this will all be under the wing, so it'll be hidden. The only thought I had about this later is, you know, the battery's 15 grams, a little over half an ounce. And it would be more stable with a lower center of gravity. So I've had some second thoughts about putting it under the wing, even though it's nice that you can hide it there. I think if I did it again, I'd probably make a little compartment in the bottom here for the battery and the receiver, and then I'd keep the servo up on top because you need that to get to the rudder. Okay, I also made the wing, and again, I covered this with polyspan. I'm very happy with the way this came out. I think it came out really nice. And again, I sprayed it as well. Now the thing I did different here is again on the bottom. So I used Yoo-Hoo glue stick with polyspan, and that works great. You got to put it on the bottom of each rib. But to make sure it doesn't peel off, what I did is after I did the bottom, from the top on the inside, I took 50% thinned white glue, and I basically put it alongside each rib, and that basically glues it on the bottom, and that worked fantastic. I shrunk it really tight. It didn't peel off at all. It's really on there. The wing is nice and strong. I built in a little bit of washout at the tips. That means you raise the trailing edge. Okay, so here's what we got so far. Now I'll show you a couple things on the prop as well. It's got a classic 18-inch old-timer prop. And these are pretty labor intensive. There's a couple ways you could do it. So one way you could do it is you could get, you know, an 18-inch block basically and saw it like this and then carve it, which is fine, but that's fairly labor intensive. I've done that a few times. Now up to a few years ago, you could also just actually buy them from Superior Props. Here's one I bought. I've used it. It's a little beat up, but so all you really have to do with this is just sand it and dope it. These are really, really nice. Now I'm going to show you a little secret I have, which is a kind of lazy way to do it. And what I did is this. I bought these RN propellers, and this is for a 16.5 inch, you know, non-folder, just a regular prop. The thing is, this has really nice prop blades, okay, and then it has a center block that sets the pitch, and you glue the blades to that. And then what I did is, so I did that, and then I sanded it all down like this. Okay, so here's what you end up with. So you see, this way you don't have to do much sanding. You already got the blades formed. And then what I did is I made a little hub for the middle here. Okay, this is just a piece of aluminum. I bent it with some tubes. It's all at 15 degrees. I put a little wire. Usually they use a 32nd, but I used a little thicker, 0.045, because it's tough flying on the AstroTurf. And this is just pine I drilled out. So then all you got to do is saw this, and there you go. You have two blades. Actually, if you compare it to Superior, you pretty much got the same blades, and you'll end up with a nice 18.5 inch prop this way. The other thing I did that's different is that on the last one I On the Lanzo, I soldered uprights, and you know, that was a little heavy. So this time what I did is I just made a slot here, and I actually have a little retaining popsicle stick actually, and I'm not even sure I need that. But then what I did is on the wheels, this is nice and light, I just glued a 16th ply in between, and this slides in the bottom, and then you lock it in and you're all ready to go. So I think this worked pretty well. Alright, so I'll show you it assembled and a couple other pointers. Okay, so here it is, Dick Korda's Dethermalizer. It's a classic large old-time rubber. Now I made it for radio control, so it's rudder only. Still rubber powered though. Okay, and as I showed you before, with the landing gear, just plugged into the bottom. You know, I think friction alone was enough to hold it, but I put a little retainer there that it screws in just in case. Alright, there's a push rod in the fuselage, and that goes out. You can see the wire comes out, and that controls the rudder. All the equipment's under the wing. You can see the switch there and the antenna coming out the side. Alright, I also finished the prop. Okay, and boy, that folds nice and flat against the fuselage. I was very happy with the way that came out. Alright, I also put a little extra reinforcement on it here. Okay, because I'm flying under rough conditions on the AstroTurf. Basically, you're hitting cement. Alright, in certain ways I'm afraid to fly it tomorrow, but that's what it was built for, so that's what we're going to do. I have to say, I never realized till I built it what a beautiful plane it is. It really has nice lines, so I have to thank Dick Korda for such a beautiful plane, and I'm really looking forward to flying it.